Coming up on Hey, I saw that on the internet.
Cooper then whispered to her, "Miss, you'd better look in that note. I have a bomb."
The classic Without a Paddle starring Seth Green, Dak. Hey, Randy, what did you... Hey, I saw that on the internet this week.
Bradley, I saw that on the internet this week. D.B. Cooper. Have you ever heard of him?
Yeah. Stole a plane and...
Yeah. Well, he didn't steal the plane. He hijacked
He stole
the
the
plane.
money.
Yeah, stole the money, hijacked
Am I
the
spoiling
plane.
stuff? Should I not?
Maybe a little bit, but
I was going to say.
be a good intro.
This is like one of the most covered topics on the internet, I feel,
I mean,
at this point.
I don't know about most covered topics, but like,
Without a doubt.
it's pretty covered.
Yeah,
But
we're not treading new ground, but we never claim to.
yeah, but
Most of what you see on the internet, you've already seen. So
I mean, well, we see it on the internet that week, but I haven't heard of this before this week.
you had not heard of DB Cooper before this week?
No. Mm.
Wasn't it the Goonies or something that they were looking for DB Cooper's lost treasure?
Were they?
I think it was Goonies. No, I think it was.
No, it's One-Eyed Willie.
Oh, my bad. I
Yeah.
always get those two mixed
Freaking
up.
idiot.
No, haven't you seen? There's an entire Wikipedia page of just where it's been referenced in films.
Oh.
Yeah, Loki. That was the one I was going to say. It was Loki. Didn't mention it. But yeah, I've heard of the DB Cooper treasure. Yeah, there was. I feel like there was another movie that I know of that like. Oh, Without a Paddle. That was.
It was
the classic Without a Paddle, starring Seth Green, Dak Shepard, and Matthew Lillard.
Ah.
Yeah, but I know I've seen. I like it. Yeah, it comes up every now and then.
Yeah, every now and then. I had never looked into it though, knew anything about it. Anyway, so we'll go over the story of D.B. Cooper.
Let's do it.
Maybe some interesting facts you didn't know. All right, on November 24th, day before Thanksgiving, in 1971, a man calling himself Dan Cooper, later misidentified in the media as D.B. Cooper, hijacked a Northwestern Orient Airlines flight from Portland, Oregon to Seattle, Washington.
Wait, he never identified himself as D.B. Cooper?
No.
That was just made up by the media?
It was misheard by the media, and then it was more catchy, so everyone went with it.
How did you mishear? And then we were talking to Dan Cooper. D.B. Cooper, you say? Like,
Yep, on his ticket, he wrote Dan Cooper.
Yeah, that doesn't sound anything like D.B.
Yeah, I don't know. On his ticket, he wrote Dan Cooper.
Interesting.
He was described as a white male in his mid-40s, dark hair, brown eyes, wearing a black or brown business suit, a white shirt and a thin black tie, a black raincoat, and brown shoes. So shortly after takeoff, he handed a note to the flight attendant, Florence Schaffner, sitting in the back of the plane directly behind him. She assumed the note was from a lonely businessman looking for an adventure, quote unquote. Well, I don't know if she actually said that, but not quote, but
Not
you get
her
the
quote, a quote from whatever internet.
You get the gist.
Yeah, he was just some guy traveling by himself having fun. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Schaffner dropped the note unopened in her purse. However, Cooper then whispered to her, "Miss, you'd better look in that note. I have a bomb."
Yeah, I knew that. Yeah, because she thought he was like coming on to her. Is what you're saying. So like she was like, oh, he's just like some guy giving me his phone number or whatever. And
right.
Started walking away, and he's like, "It's not my phone number. That's a bomb. That's a note about how I have a bomb." Like,
yeah, you better give me the money. Anyway, he demanded a ransom of $200,000, which is equivalent to just shy of $1.5 million in today's money. So this is kind of where my sources contradicted. One source said he demanded it in $20 bills. Another source said he just got it in $20 bills because they already had those tracked and serialized. So I don't know which was true. I just knew that he got it in $20 bills.
I thought it was. Were they not unmarked?
No, they were marked. They were still serialized,
Gotcha.
and they were noted which ones they gave him, which is interesting. Anyway, he demanded the money, 4 parachutes, which were to be delivered to the plane in Seattle. Moving forward with the ransom, Cooper then released the passengers and ordered the plane to be refueled and take off again, heading towards Mexico. So the passengers on the plane, they were up in the air for a long time. So the flight from Portland, to Seattle is not very long at all. So I think it's like a 45, 30-minute flight, something like that. But they were flying around, like negotiating the ransom up in the air. So like they were just in the air, and the other passengers were like,
No. Tell them I want this.
yeah,
Like,
when's this plane gonna land? So they got the other passengers off.
you thought that flight you had with the crying baby was bad.
Wait till it gets hijacked.
Yeah, wait till a plane. What is it? The only case of like commercial aircraft piracy or something like that, or something.
Yeah, commercial airjack. Well, it's the only successful one apparently.
Yeah.
Besides
In the history of the United States.
sure.
Except I don't know how successful I would call it.
Yeah, well, we'll see. The plane lands, passengers get off, and it wasn't until the passengers got off that any of them knew the plane was being hijacked.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, nice enough guy not to threaten the rest of the plane,
Right,
I guess.
let everybody out. Sure.
Yeah. So Cooper demanded the plane fly with the landing gear down, the flaps at 15 degrees and below 100,000 feet, lights in the cabin off, and the staircase in the back of the plane open.
Gotcha. So was this after the takeoff, after they picked up the parachutes and money, or was this while everybody?
Oh, sorry. This was after they.
So they took back off, and then he was the
Yes.
he was the only person in the cabin, but he demanded they take off with like all the landing gear down, the door open, and all that.
Yes.
And he has 4 parachutes at this time.
Yes. They had to stop in Nevada to refuel as well because they didn't have enough gas to make it to Mexico.
Gotcha.
The 2 Air Force flight jets follow the plane because they're like, plane's being hijacked. So the Air Force is like trying to follow the plane and make sure it gets there and, all that fun military stuff. There's also a 3rd jet that followed right behind, and the other 2 couldn't maintain the slower speed of the commercial airplane, so it had to like circle the plane because they couldn't fly that slow. But there was one jet that could maintain the speed behind it. However, by the time anything eventful happened, that plane had to go to refuel, so it never saw anything.
I imagine that flying around another plane over and over would really deplete your fuel pretty quick. Like, just do it circle.
Yeah.
I like your depiction where it's physical exertion. Like, oh, I'm gonna turn this plane again. Like, oh.
I mean, I'd imagine there's like some resistance on that wheel.
I
imagine. Wait, do they have wheels? Do jets have wheels?
I assume. Like,
I don't know. Do they?
No, they got to. I think they have like
those little handlebar things.
Yeah, that you like pull out, but you can also
turn them side to side.
I don't know if y'all know this. We record multiple episodes at one time. So we've already talked today about how
Tanks?
planes fly.
Oh.
And so now I'm gonna have to talk about how planes steer. So on the back of planes, the wing of an airplane that like kind of goes up and down. Is this helping to demonstrate it to other people out there? So like there's like a little flap on the end of an airplane that like will go up or go down.
Okay. Yeah.
Like you've seen that on airplanes. So I'm pretty sure that when you turn like the yoke of the plane, that it's adjusting those, because that's how you turn in air.
Right.
I think because you're slowing down.
Right.
You're increasing surface area in one place to make air move slower on one wing than the other, so that you're essentially braking on one side to go on the other. You ever been?
But do I have a wheel?
Yeah, because I like your wheel, like.
But it's not like a circle.
No, it's more like
Yeah.
It's a yoke.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah, that was my
yeah.
thought and my concern.
Yeah. What were we talking about?
Uh,
I kind of got lost.
aggressively turning.
Oh
airplanes.
yeah, there we go. Yeah, how they had to fly in circles around them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Somewhere over the Pacific Northwest, Cooper jumped out the back of the plane with a parachute and the ransom money, and was never seen again.
Mm-hmm.
By the 5-year anniversary of the hijacking, the FBI considered more than 800 suspects and eliminated all but 2 dozen from consideration.
Sorry.
All right,
Anyway.
so most people think Cooper did not survive his jump, as it was a stormy night when he jumped out stormy and dark night when he jumped out the back of the airplane.
I just imagine that. Imagine that parachuting isn't something you could just figure out. Like, I'm pretty sure
Well,
it's this thing, right?
That's some of the things I read said they suspected that he was like possibly like a military paratrooper. Some people thought that DB Cooper had some kind of like parachute military training. As the parachute he took out of the 4 was I believe a parachute that was either the parachute or similar to the parachutes that like paratroopers will use at the time in the Army.
So he like requested a military grade.
No, I think he just requested 4 of them, and like they gave him like a training one that was like sewn shut, and then a military one, and then like a professional one.
Why?
I don't know. I think it's just what they had at like the
they just had one that was sewn shut. Like, give him that one.
Well, they called up this parachute training place that was only like 20 minutes from the airport, from where they were negotiating the ransom. So, interesting. Anyway, some people thought he had the training. But the interesting thing is the parachute he picked could not be steered. So wherever he jumped out and then he landed, he kind of just landed there. His clothing and footwear were unsuitable for the rough landing, and he had jumped into a wooded area at night.
Well, they don't quite know where he jumped because
They have a rough estimate.
but it's a rough estimate of like several hundred miles.
Yeah.
It's like, because I don't know if we hit on that part or not, but like they took off from Seattle.
Yeah.
Right. He had them like keep the door open while they were flying, and they were like circling him. They were following him, but they couldn't follow him the entire time. And at some point, they don't know when, like everybody else. So everybody had gotten off the plane in Seattle except the flight crew, who is still holding on hostage. The flight crew were all in the cockpit. And after a certain amount of time, they don't know when, he jumped out of the plane and fell to the earth. And nobody knows where he jumped out specifically. So like they probably in the woods somewhere.
Yeah, they have a rough.
But I don't think his footwear is like, if only he'd not been wearing sandals, DB Cooper would have been fine. Like,
yeah, well, it was a lot of like the clothes he had on and the storm that was happening, like, wasn't good conditions for him to jump out of an airplane,
What are the good conditions for jumping out of an airplane?
Middle of the day.
10 feet off the ground. That's the time to do it. Don't jump out of airplanes.
Some people think, though, that he did make it. As in 1980, a young boy found a rotting package full of $20 bills, $5,800 in all, that matched the ransom money serial numbers on the river of a bank.
On the river of a bank, you say?
Wow.
On the river of a bank.
On the bank of a river.
So there's just like, was it like Citibank, Bank of America?
I think it was
I didn't
Huntington.
know they had their own river. That's fascinating.
It was the bank of a river.
Okay, that would make more sense.
Yeah, it was the bank of a river. So a small portion of the ransom money was found along the banks of the Columbia River, making the FBI reconsider where Cooper may have landed. The odd thing about these wads of cash, though, are the rubber bands used to hold the wads together couldn't withstand the elements for more than a year, which suggests that Cooper buried the money himself. It was estimated the bills were buried a few months after the crime.
Did they really describe it as wads of cash?
Yeah. Well, I think that's what I paraphrased it as.
Okay, I was going to say, like, I imagine that they were stacks. I don't imagine they were just like, throw them in there quick. And they're just had like balled up
Yeah.
$20 bills. Like,
Yeah, so
rubber band those together so we know how many's 1,000.
yeah, so like basically the rubber bands, if he had just like fallen to his death, they would have just disintegrated over time in the conditions of the wilderness and whatnot. But since they made it underground and buried, they would survive, I guess.
I feel like rubber bands that I own in my house are going to outlive me by centuries. I can't imagine that this is the case. Like,
I mean,
I
maybe
don't
if they
know.
get rained on and are in the sun all day, maybe they decompose
I
faster.
don't know.
I don't know.
I say, let's do some experiments
Yeah.
with rubber bands after this. We're
So
an
then-
educational YouTube channel.
So then I found a couple people claiming that DB Cooper was their relative,
Mhm.
but like it was like 3 people. And I'm like, you aren't all related.
Yeah.
So man, people looking for their 10 minutes of fame out there. Maybe we should do something like that
Is
for the
that-
podcast.
Because I feel like that's all our podcast is at this point. Between that guy I talked about from faking his military career, the storm chaser guy we were talking about, the Balloon Boy father. Like, yeah.
What was the guy in early America? What was his name?
Timothy Dexter.
Timothy Dexter. Yeah.
Yeah, good old Timothy Dexter. Yeah.
People just looking for their 15 minutes of fame
I
out here.
guess so, man. Yeah, I don't know. There was a girl one time who I dated that told me when she was a kid she was always looking for DB Cooper's treasure. So I'm surprised. I really am in shock that you had not.
I've never heard of it.
DB Cooper.
I never heard of it.
Yeah, do you not watch Loki? Do you not watch Marvel? Do you not like Marvel? Are you not? Cool?
I hadn't seen Loki.
Loki's good. DB
I
Cooper's
probably
in-
see like one of every like 4 Marvel films.
Yeah, it turns out that the reason that he never got found is because he's actually Loki, and he did it on a bet with Thor.
Yeah, okay.
So there you go, people. You can take that to the bank.
Hmm.
But you can't
Checks
because the
out.
money got lost. What is our social media page of the week?
The social media page of the week is on Twitter. It is called Fact Retriever. Has a bunch of interesting facts.
Like?
The
Give us one.
the average human spends about a year of their life on the toilet.
Oh, I was going to go with the thing where they talked about how penguins can drink salt water. But
Oh,
you do
that-
you, man.
Yeah, either of those. I mean, it's an interesting page. I would suggest
Yeehaw.
following it.
Well,
You can
howdy,
also
folks. Well, thank you all. We appreciate it.
check out our next video over here.
Probably our last video.
It's whatever video YouTube thinks you
Check
should
out
watch.
a video from us right
Yeah.
here.